honestly, this majesty, the president, in private discussions, if they want to know what we'll be discussing.
Thank you so much, Excellency. It's His Highness before I could execute it in Eswatini. So, His Excellency here always takes good care of us. We were sent by His Majesty the King Mswati III from the Kingdom of Eswatini to come and pay a courtesy call and pay his respects to his dear brother, His Excellency the President, where we came here to first to congratulate His Excellency on the milestone, of the Zimbabwe, what they've achieved thus far, being nominated and elected to represent the continent in the UN Security Council seat 2027-2028. His Majesty congratulates his dear brother on that, and he knows that the president is very capable to handle that situation very carefully. And also, to look at ways and how we can strengthen the cooperation and relations between the two countries, Eswatini and Zimbabwe. We've discussed quite a few at large, agriculture, foreign relations, how we can trade as well, what we can do to increase participation between Eswatini and Zimbabwe. I also acknowledged and thanked His Excellency and commended him for the development which we're seeing here in Zimbabwe. It is unmatched. This is what we want for Africa. And seeing such development here in Zimbabwe, every time we come here, we see new things coming up, the road network systems, new ones, the lifestyles of Zimbabweans, the way in which this country is being run. It's very well. And we are here, to learn on all of that. And that is why His Majesty the King sent us to come here to visit his brother and see how we can share those experiences together. And I know His Excellency here, he was in Eswatini a couple of months ago to celebrate with His Majesty and honor His Majesty on his birthday, 58th, and also on his 40th anniversary. So we are excited to be here, and we're always taken care of here as well. And His Excellency also gave me amazing words to brief the King that His Majesty must always know that if he was his brother, he will always stand with him at all times. So thank you so much for having.
Right.
Yeah.
I got you. What's the long-term view, Temba? Because you seem to know what is coming in the future. What is the long-term view?
I told you that this is a sinking ship. HE will lose the elections, even within ZANU-PF is losing, statistically. He does not control any provinces. They are fighting. And when they fight, they go for the president. That's ZANU-PF for you.
Okay.
You see, and from an analysis point of view, Masvingo is split. Midlands is split. Manicaland is split. Mash East is split. Mash Central is split. And these are the powerhouses.
If the ship sinks, what happens? Who gets in?
But I told you, Chamisa is going to get in. That's why there's a need to create a third force. And I'm not saying you come, but I'm saying you watch the politics. Don't even go to the third force. But this is a sinking ship. You let it sink and you make money. It's okay. I don't mind. Remember, I told you, you need to know that because you've got a brand that you want to be working on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, if the ship is going to sink, where does that leave you?
No, I'm good. There's no government that will come on board that would not want to work with me.
Right.
Are you with me?
Right.
I mean, a government that doesn't work with me or you professionally, then he doesn't know what he's doing.
Right.
I have to bond, and I don't want to be part of it. Because for me, I know what I can do. I know my capacity. Are you with me?
Yep. And is a country run by MDC going to be better or worse?
No, it to be better because it will have to be inclusive. Because people are looking for a government that is inclusive. Are you with me?
Yeah.
Rutendo yakuno kutuda kushanda newe ukune ukurukudera uskuda alright. Temba tuda kushanda newe apa urukudera uskuda. Are you with me?
Right.
Yeah. These guys have missed the point of inclusivity. And
but do you believe
fighting the Zimbabweans are tired of fighting. That's why I told you there's a third force coming, which will just appear from nowhere, which will be people as ZANU-PF.
But should we be inclusive with people who have been sabotaging their own country?
You see, for me, Sekuru, my politics, which you must understand, is that even Kasukwere, who Akandidzinga, I still talk to him. He's the one who kicked me out.
MuZimbabwean wese anoziva kuti state yenyika yakamira sei. You don't need to argue with someone who constantly wants to rewrite or to impress upon your psychology something that is false. Recently everyone is interacting nemavideo emuharare kwadzana 6 vanhu vari kuposta masuweji kuti anoflowa as if it is normal muCBD matiri kutaura muharare marara pese paungafunge. People are posting pictures to show you what it truly is. Vanogona kupointa havo kuti council oita maargument council here iri kukundikana, vanogona kuita argument kuti irresponsibility yaminister of local government, but what you cannot run away from is the fact yekuti zvinhu zvacho zviri pachena hazvisi kushanda. You can't run away from the fact yekuti for the past decade chitungwiza haizivi kuti mvura chii. Vanhu vanotovhunduka kuti mvura iri kubuda patepu. Saka ndikabva ndagara pasi ndotanga kuisana nharo nemunhu ndaiva zvinhu zviri kushanda chete tinenge tadzokera pane idiom yandaita yekuti zvinoita here kuti varume tigare pasi 2 hours tichipikisana nebenzi kuti sipo haidyiwe. So I hope I've emphasized that one enough. Pane vanhu varikuda kuti tirambe tichiita kick the horse that is already dead. Tinogona kuita trade in a conversation that is very simple because we've been having this conversation for decades. Conversation yekuti nyika haisi kushanda. Munhu wese, the all 500 of us listening here can come up and repeat the same word kuti nyika haisi kushanda, nyika haisi kushanda, nyika haisi kushanda. But ZANU-PF will be happy because what that means is kuti we had 500 people and 500 people each given 10 minutes and 10 minutes they repeated the exact same thing. They did not move an inch. They emphasized upon themselves something that they already knew to be a fact. So what has changed? Before you came to this space you knew kuti nyika haisi kushanda, ndochatoita kuti uye panapa. Saka huna kuonesana nharo nemunhu kuti nyika iri kushanda here kana kuti haisi. Nekuti chakuunza panapa ndechekuti nyika haisi kushanda. Dai inge iri kushanda dai usiri pano, dai inini ndisiri pano. Ndiri kutonetsana nezvimwe zvinhu zvinoitika munyika iri kushanda kuti mainvestments angu ari kumhanya sei, stock market yadonha here yakwidza here. Ndo zvataidai tiri kutonetsana nazvo. But tiri panapa because we held the idea that nyika haisi kushanda prior to joining the conversation. Now, ZANU is happy if we are constantly having the same conversation. That's very simplistic conversation because it's already being heard in every household. What they do not want you to do is to make the next leap after you have admitted padare kuti nyika haisi kushanda. After madzinga uyo ari kukuwestai kukuitsai nharo kuti sipo inodyiwa muchiziva kuti haidyiwe. Pane a complicated conversation that you are supposed to have. Kuti tazviziva kuti nyika haisi kushanda, vari kukonzera kuti isashanda ndeava, tozvigadzirisa sei. And CAP 3 is a best platform to have that conversation. I am happy ndichicelebrate ma-MP ari kubuditsa zvinhu zvamagara muchitaura, zvandagara ndichitaura, zvatagara tichitaura ndo zviri kufanira kutaurwa kurwisa CAP 3. It has been said from the likes of fundis such as Professor Maduku. It has been said by activists, students learning to be fundis themselves that have found themselves in prison. Ndo zvakasungirwa stima zvare zvichitaurwa nema-MP anga zvatiri kucelebrata nhasi. Ndo zvaitaurwa recently muUK naTendai Biti. Ndo zvaitaurwa panapa space nevanhu vese vakasiyana siyana. Umwe anogona kutopointa kuti inini ndakambozvitaura, mavhidhio aripo ndichizvitaura. Ndo zvaitaurwa naDoug Coulthard in the recent series of videos that he has put out. Zvadzokorodzwa nema-MP nhasi. But what we are celebrating is kuti pane vane the guts to say it and represent what the people out there say. But we should never forget kuti at this stage it is performative. Nekuti tinoziva tese arithmetics dzemu-lower house, dzemu-parliament. Arithmetics ndedzekuti dai vese vanga vari sober, ma-MP opposition ari sober, and they vote accordingly, they would still be defeated. We know that. they would still be defeated. And ZANU-PF has told us already pachena kuti isusu tichashandisa whipping system and we don't want even a whiff kuti iende ku secret ballot, because we want to avoid kuti pamwe pane ma-MP ekusaidi kwawo kuZANU-PF anogona kubatwa ne-consciousness, anogona kuremember kuti aiwa pane chinhu chinonzi redemption of sin, and one thing I can do to redeem myself is to do the right thing when I have the power to do the right thing. They want to minimize that chance. Saka Ziambi Squared has told you kuti aiwa no, it is going to be out in the open. So the arithmetic is clear. Now, why am I emphasizing this part? I'm emphasizing this part kuti tisaite lost in the performance. Lost in the performance to a point whereby we do not prepare for what we know is coming. Remember, this is just performance. As I have said, the arithmetics, the math, the calculus, the addition, the 1 + 1 says that if all MPs of opposition were to vote with the expected opposition voice and were to say no to the bill, they would still be thrashed. So if your fixation is merely on them and the performance that is playing out now, you are not preparing for the outcome that you know is coming. When that outcome comes, what are you going to do? That is the question that we should be speaking of. Even if their numbers were the same, the parliament had an equal number of CCC, but Chabangu was still there. You go back to that conversation that you were having earlier, the conversation of legitimacy, where you know that the parliament that is currently presiding over a bill of this magnitude, does not have the right to preside over it. It does not have the moral obligation. It destroyed the social contract the moment Chabangu did his recalls, or even earlier than that, the moment the election was doubted to a point whereby the SEOM wrote a damning report to say that the election in Zimbabwe does not meet not only the standards of SADC, but the standard of the Zimbabwean constitution itself. It is an affront to the constitution of Zimbabwe and an affront to the constitution of the Southern African region. It is not what Zimbabwe signed up to when they joined that grouping of African countries. Ndopa vakaluza mandate yese legitimacy yekuti vapreside over this bill. But we are here, they are presiding over it as if everything is kumbaya. And we can celebrate the good speeches that are repeating what we have said, but if we get lost in that performance, it is no different from us getting lost in a performance of an election where we see FARS at the entry point. What do you think FARS is doing at the entry point of that election? And should that election continue? That is where we are, ladies and gentlemen. I think it is high time we impress upon our preferred opposition leaders, the civic groups that we belong to, if we belong to any, that we gear up in preparation of the ultimate defense that any constitution has. The people represented by that constitution, the people whose voice is captured in the 2013 constitution. That is what we should be preparing for. The time for my speech, repetition of rhetoric has to go by, because the person that we are fighting is not dependent on these speeches. The person that we are fighting is actually actively doing something on the ground, and that something is resulting in what they want. Ndaifunga nezuro when I was writing the piece on legitimacy, which is what I spoke about today, which is what I wrote about today. Legitimacy of the parliament, the president, and whether they have the right to preside over a bill of this magnitude. Ndaifunga nchiti, but ZANU-PF has to be a very lucky bastard. It is either it is a very lucky bastard or they are very intentional. Munoziva ma-Roman kings, ma-Roman emperors vaiti kana vapara mhaka hombe voziva kuti panogona kuita uprising, vanhu vanogona kuvakanganisa. What they used to do is kuti vaiisa ma-games. They would throw games where people could go and be entertained, and these games sometimes would be free or freely accessible. Then people would throw a party, enjoy over gladiators fighting, animals running, etc. You know the history. You've seen it in movies, at least if you have not read it. And then the attention of the people will be drifted. So I asked myself, kuti neworld cup iripo ibva nanzwa manje mukoma wangu achitaura nezveworld cup, would we have the attention span that is required for us to be able to resist this? Or are we soon going to be lost in the entertainment? Are we going to be lost in the entertainment and we forget to attend to that which is of importance to not only our continued well-being, but that of the generations that are to come? Dopamine now. And if I'm to make this as brief as I am capable of, which is not brief at all, is, ladies and gentlemen, don't be lost. Yes, don't be lost in the performance. What is happening and what is being said by the MPs that still have their head in the correct position is what you have been saying. But there is an expected outcome that you have to prepare to fight against. That expected outcome should not be lost in the divisive politics that all of a sudden has emerged. If that politics cannot be resolved in the moment, then endai kwaningi kwamuri kuda, but mudzei kuti fight yatinayo izvezvi ndeiyi. And what are we doing for this thing that we know that is coming? Hold them accountable, hold yourself accountable. Kuti nini ndiri kuita, iye akasaita anything because pamwe zvake zviri kuita. Handiti taito iri kuti mapaychecks aripo, pamwe akapiwa paycheck, pamwe ndini, pamwe ndakapiwa paycheck, pamwe ndosandisina zvandiri kuita. Mukauya kwandiri muona kuti aiwa ndiri kungokupaka ipa side, don't hesitate to move to the next. Don't hesitate to become the head so that we resist this thing. Then we can go back in the season of our politics when all this has been stopped. We can go back to our politics, ningandi mude. But izvezvi hatisi ipapo. Tiri face an existential threat, if I was to put it that way. A threat that opposition would not exist as you know it, or would not even have the chance to exist as you know it. To face a threat, the issue of legitimacy that you were speaking about, that we can easily point out, won't be as easy. ZANU-PF is ultimately buying its legitimacy, because what's going to happen pretty soon if Cap 3 passes is you can no longer have that argument yekuti hatina kuvotera president. The reason ZANU-PF for the longest has been ruling for decades in an illegitimacy is because they didn't have the ability to capture your opinion. Even though vanogona kuita temper with the numbers, whether say, but your opinion still goes above that capturing. That's why ndataura nezve SEOM report reSADC. Even election result ichiti takarakashwa tikadyiwa, report reSADC riri kuti aiwa iyi haisiyo opinion yemaZimbabweans. But once Cap 3 happens, that opinion can even be captured and can be tailored. Vanogona kutokusiyai movota zvamunoda zveshuwa parliamentarians. But when it comes to how those parliamentarians move, that state capture apparatus that would now have its bill reduced would come into full force. Sezvamuri kuona izvezvi zvichitoita play out nema-MP. Handi munototi uyu achitaura motoona kuti uyu kauyu mari yacho akatotsika ipapo, haasati atomboendesa kumba, atonayo. Ndosaka kamwe kakuvhunduka kanako ndeke munhu akatobata brown envelope richitori muhomwe asati radhipozitwa pasi pemetress, because hapana ari kuisa mubhengi, and we all know why pasina ari kuisa mubhengi, right? Ndopatiri. And zvamuri kuona zviri kuitika izvozvo is the same thing that will play out when it comes to the president if you let this continue. And we cannot. So if we are then lost in these meaningless squabbles that we have had for the past ameno years, zekungotukirana over my personalities, we're not going anywhere. Let's mature to a level where we say there is a job that needs to be done. I need to be part of doing that job. I prefer to do that job under the management of so-and-so. I am going to approach that so-and-so with whichever channels I can and see what they are doing. If they are not, they have to answer why they are not doing it. If they are still not moved to do anything, I still have the responsibility to save not only myself, but the generations to come.